Hey, dualpreneur, are you feeling overwhelmed with everything that you have to do? Life, family, work, and your side business? Well, today's guest is going to tell you how you can take the load off and still be successful as a dualpreneur. Welcome to the Dualpreneur podcast. I am your host, Tara Jackson, aka Madam Money, and I am so excited to have my next guest, Miss Sandi Evans, the beautiful Sandi Evans. Girl, you look like somebody beat the heck out of your face. Look at that.
Thank you. Thank you. I tried.
Girl, like we about to go out for real. You
Oh
know.
my goodness.
But
I have tried because being in the house all the time, working from home and all of the things, it's just like sweatsuits are everything. So I've tried to make it an intention to actually put clothes on sometimes.
I know, right? Doing these podcasts is what's making me have to put on clothes and makeup. So thank you so much for making me get out of my sweatpants. My thing is my leggings. My leggings lie to me, help me keep my lie
Oh
alive,
my
right?
goodness. Yes.
Best
Yes.
thing ever. So whoever invented leggings, thank you so much for that. That was the best for me. So today, we're going to talk about systems, why systems are so important with being a dualpreneur. And a lot of people don't understand when you say you need to create a system, you need to create a system. Well, a lot of dualpreneurs or new entrepreneurs, we don't understand what systems, what are you talking about when we're talking about systems? So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, I need the world to know how amazing you are. Of course, I know, but I need you to share how amazing you are, who you are, what you do, and how do you help the world.
Well, my name is Sandi Evans. I am known to some as the Systems Surgeon, and I support service based businesses and entrepreneurs in creating strategic systems that help them to streamline, automate, and delegate their way to a more profitable and productive business without being burned out and overwhelmed. I have been working with clients from a system standpoint for about the last 7 years. I am a mother to three, two are still at home. So my time is very important to me, just so that I can spend as much time with them as possible. I have a grandbaby who is three. So, just trying to make sure that I am present for my family is super important to me. So I needed a space to be able to create a business around my lifestyle rather than having to incorporate my family and my life around being an entrepreneur.
That's amazing. That's so amazing that you do that and that you help businesses to be able to create systems so they can continue to live the lifestyle that they want and still have their business and still do everything. And before you've done this because you are a full-time entrepreneur now, you were a dualpreneur. And so
Absolutely.
let's talk about that because you use dualpreneurism to help you get to becoming a full-time entrepreneur. So what did you do for your job when before you started your business?
I'm a paralegal by trade. So I was managing a multi state law firm office. I was the managing paralegal there. And so I have, that's where my background has been. That's what I was doing um, right up until I had my youngest daughter and went on maternity leave as usual, planned on coming back. And I did come back, but it was completely different. My all of my children are there's a 5 year gap in between each one, 5 to 6 years.
Wow. Wow.
My philosophy has always you have to be potty trained and able to at least make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before I can start again. So
I don't know about
They
that philosophy because my son's 26 and I'm still not ready to have another one, but okay.
so they're between 5 and 6 years apart, each one. And it's like the last one, it just was so different, and I was in a different space. I worked all the time with the
Mhm.
first two, so much so that we did like one of those Facebook polls where it's like ask your kid these questions and see the answers. And my daughter was 5 at the time, and I said, "What's mommy's favorite thing to do?" And she said, "Work." And I was like, "Oh wow." And it was like, "Well, what makes you happy?" "Working." And I was like, "Is this like the picture that I am presenting, to them, even though my goal was always to create a better lifestyle for them and be able to provide for them. My goal was never to put work ahead of them." So when the very last one was born and I came to work and I was tired all the time and trying to be a mom to a newborn and two small children, and then work. And I was running my business. I actually started my business as a virtual assistant company. Um, I was introduced to the VA space um, back in 2012, and I was like, "What is that?" And I did some research, and I was like, "Oh, I can totally do that." So I started out as a VA, and I was doing virtual paralegal work. I'd started law school and um, was driving. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I live in Atlanta now, but I was from Baltimore, and I was going to law school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And for proximity, that is literally an hour and a half drive one way. So I was working full time, driving to law school at night, being in class for 3 hours, and then driving back 4 nights a week. And so I dropped my kids off at 7 o'clock in the morning. I picked my kids up at 11:30 p.m. 4 nights a week.
Wow.
And that was not the space that I wanted to create for them. And so I put it on the back burner and I said, if it's really something that I'm supposed to do, then I'll do it at a later date when they're older.
Mhm.
Because that time I can always go back to school, but I'm not going to get that time back with the kids. Right.
Right, right.
So when I decided to put it on the back burner, the managing partner was like, "Well, what are you going to do? Because you've hit the ceiling here." He's like,
Wow.
"You are great. I was excited about you going to law school." He's like, "You do a great job, but you have hit the ceiling here." And I didn't like that at all, which is why I started my business. And I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to do this." And I started out doing virtual paralegal work, supporting pro se people who wanted to represent themselves in uncontested divorces and in bankruptcy, because I knew all of the things. So I was doing that, and I was balancing both. I tell people all the time, um, very rarely, I believe, does God tell you to just jump out there without a plan. So I was going to make sure that it was working, that I had money. I mean, I had children to support. So I was making sure that I had enough money. So I was using my job to support my business. And I worked the business at night, and I worked my job during the day. I would work during the day, deal with the kids. And then once they went to bed, it was time to put on that dualpreneur hat and
Mhm.
knock stuff out in the business. And I did that for several years. I became very comfortable in doing so because I knew that if anything went by the wayside, that I had a check regardless as to whether or not,
Mhm.
while I was building the business, if money got funny and clients were slim, that
Mhm.
I still had a check. And so I worked for about 4 years before I actually went full time in the business.
So at what point did you feel that you were ready to go full time as an entrepreneur?
Funny story. The first time that I decided that I was gonna go full time was right after it was. less than a year. It was probably about 10 months after my youngest was born. And I went to work. And like I said, I was breastfeeding and I was pumping in my car because there was nowhere in this multi-state law firm
Mm.
for us to have any private space. I was literally going out um, into my car to pump and all of the things. And I put the milk in the refrigerator in a bag, and I went to go home for the day. And I went and grabbed my bag. Somebody decided to move it. They flipped it upside down. All the milk spilled out, and I stood in the middle of the floor at the law firm, and I absolutely had an out of body moment of insanity.
That's what we'll call it. All mothers know what that means.
I lost it, and it was like, who touched my stuff? And it was ridiculous. And I was like, you know what? This is it. This is enough. And I think between that and my manager telling me that I'd hit the ceiling, I went ahead and I said, you know what? I had been, running the business. I had a steady stream of clients, and I said, enough is enough. And 30 days later, well, in the meantime, I made a decision right then and there. But I went and I told all of my clients, I was like, you know what? I'm going full time, because they knew that I was working. Most of them knew that I worked during the day. I said, I'm going full time. If you want to pick up some additional retainer hours, I'm available. I started marketing heavily, even more. And by the 30 days, I was fully booked out, and I left.
Wow. That's amazing that you had a time, you have time now. Not everybody can do it in 30 days, and we're not promoting that you quit your job to start a business. No, because
Do not.
you were a dualpreneur for a long time, and you had that steady stream of clients so that you can call on as a backup. And you have a family and all of that stuff. So, it was at a point where you had the clientele, you had the money coming in, that you were like, okay, I can do this. I'm out. Other than them messing with your stuff and spilling all of that. Every mother that has breastfed knows what that means. Like, I think we would have, yeah, done the same thing, probably worse. Yeah, they would have escorted me out the building. Y'all don't understand the plight that we go through with that,
Liquid gold.
especially we had to go to the car to do that. Mm.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. And
let's
that was
talk.
the first time.
Okay.
I went back to work when I relocated to Georgia, um, because I wanted to make sure that everything was good and I was acclimated. And I went back to work, which was probably about 3 years in, as I was starting to shift into the OBM role, and create an agency. So I was doing something different, and I wanted to make sure that I could sustain everything. Kids were getting older. I was looking into daycares and things like that because I've been home. So relocating somewhere where I had did not have my support system, I decided that I was going to go back to work, and I worked again for 3 years. And I was it 3 years? It was about 2 years, probably about 2 years. But even in that space, I knew that I didn't want to stay. I just did not feel, even though I never wanted to, I never growing up said I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I really did not understand the concept of I want to own a business. I had a completely different idea in mind, but being in the workspace, I just, as more time went along, I knew that I was just not designed to work for other people. And it was in those times that I figured out that what really, really drove me nuts was inefficient systems and processes. Like, it just, I always was trying, in my mind, it was always, there is a better way to do this. Why is this so convoluted? Why do these systems not make any sense as to how we're doing them? And we're wasting time and resources on it, and it doesn't make any sense. And I actually went to my manager at one point and was like, you know what, this makes no sense. And when we the law firm that I was working for at the time merged with another, and hired this tech team to build out this big, supposed to be wonderful system that was going to run all of the things. And it was designed for one arm of the firm, but not for the remaining arms. So, it worked for the one small part, but it didn't work overall. And I went to the partner and I was like, this doesn't make sense for us. It does not work for us. And the majority of the process doesn't apply to us. So it's useless. And I ended up somehow getting a seat on this tech team as really consulting for my department. And I helped them to build it out. They did all of the coding and everything like that, but they would bring it back to me and go, well, what's working, what's not working? And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. Like, it was the best, most fun thing that I had ever done. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And so when I decided to leave again, was just a space and a place of me knowing that I was not going to reach the potential that I wanted in the position that I was in. And so I made sure that, once again, I prepared myself, I made a plan, and I executed that plan and jumped back out once I was ready.
And I think a lot of us that are working, we understand that where there's systems in place and it just doesn't make sense for the department or for the employees or for the organization as a whole. And systems are processes that you do to do your job that can make it easier to do your job or more complicated to do your job, whether it's a filing system, whether it's an email system, whether it's whatever. And then those systems need to communicate to other departments. And if you can't communicate to those other departments, it makes your life very cumbersome. But the problem
Mm-hmm.
is most employees don't understand what the systems are, what systems mean. So when they start their business, they're in antiquated or non-existent systems make it hard for entrepreneurs to make money,
Yes.
because there's no system in place to either receive the money, invoicing system. There's no system in place to market the business. There's no system in place to communicate to their clients or their customer base. And so it's so important to establish systems. And it's not for us to already know how to do it. I tell people all the time, parents don't teach kids about finances because they were never taught. And they can't
Yes.
teach what they don't know, right? And the schools aren't teaching it, the churches aren't teaching it. And so the children are watching the parents and learning from the parents based on what they do,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the right way or the wrong way, right? And so a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we've been watching what companies do or whatever without it being taught to us, but we're learning the dysfunctional way to do that, to run a business, if at all learning how to run a business. So I'm so glad you are in the space of creating systems, because that is a part of the dualpreneur way, is to do it, delegate it, or delete it, right? So you do the revenue generating activities, but there are some activities that have to be done. They don't necessarily need to be done by you, but there needs to be systems in place so that you can either delegate it or you can automate it. And
Yes.
maybe that helps you to determine what needs to be deleted or delayed, because it's not congruent to the success of your business. So tell us a little bit about, why is it important to have solid systems as a dualpreneur?
Especially as systems are required, they're mandatory for any business, but especially as a dualpreneur, you are literally working in two different places, and spreading yourself between two different companies, the company that you're working your 9 to 5 and then yours. And without having systems in place, number one, things are going to fall through the cracks. Something is going to be missed. Deadlines are going to be missed. You're going to lose out on clients. You're going to miss something. And as when you're trying to build something, that's the last time people talk, and they talk very fast. And good news spreads fast, but bad news spreads faster. And so when people have a negative experience, or it's hard to work with you because the communication isn't there, whatever the case may be, that news travels fast and it can crush your business. So it's absolutely necessary that you have systems in place from the very beginning, because if you wait until the business grows, then you're waiting, then things are guaranteed to break. When all of the clients come in, and that's the misconception that a lot of dualpreneurs have, it's like, I don't need them right now because I only have a few clients, or I'm just starting out. But when that influx of clients comes in, it's going to show you exactly where all of those holes and gaps are, and you are going to sink your ship before you really get a chance to take off. So you have to put them in place on the forefront. It's doing things in decency and in order.
Absolutely. It's important to have that done now while you have few clients and can make fewer mistakes. Then you have more clients and you affect more opportunities to miss out on money. So it's definitely important to have those systems. Thank you for clarifying that. So in 2023, I've already deemed it as um, the tribe factor, right? The tribe movement. It's important to build a team, to have a tribe, because yeah, we can go by ourselves faster, but we can go with a team or with people farther. That's an African proverb. I mean, I know I completely killed it, but but why is it so important to build a team, or how to build a team, or understanding the importance of building a team?
Building a team, well, you said it. If you want to actually go further, if you want to go faster, you want to reach those goals, you can't do everything by yourself. Um, Taking the time to try and figure things out, it's time consuming and it's costly. And the errors that we make in business because we feel like we can DIY everything, can be very, very large. The cost of those things can be ridiculously high, and we don't realize it because we are in a space of YouTube University and Google and all of those things. But number one, just because you can do it doesn't mean that you do it well. So it's,
Mhm.
what is the quality of work that you're putting out? And are you really are you sacrificing time and money? Because
Mhm.
it goes both ways. When you fail to, or you decide that you're going to do it yourself rather than building a team, you have to look at the cost of that, right?
Mhm.
So if you're building a website but you don't know what you're doing and you're trying to DIY it, and I tell this story all the time, and it's actually one of the stories I tell in my book, Real Bosses Delegate. I decided that I couldn't afford to build a website, so I was going to build it myself. And I knew zero about domains, hosting, like nothing, but I was going to figure it out because I was on a budget. And the time that it took me, I think by the time it took me to get a mediocre, like, all right, it's presentable website out, took me a month. And if you calculate that time, we're just going to say that it took that I was working on it 20 hours a week, because I really was working on it more than that, because I would be up like all night between watching videos and breaking stuff and trying to make it work. But we'll say 20 hours for 4 weeks, that's 80 hours, right? And at the time, I think that I was charging like $100 an hour for consultation. So you say $100 an hour. I spent 80 hours on a website, like when that I could have spent, you know, signing a new client and working with that new client. So in all actuality, that website cost me 8 grand
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I spent the time trying to figure it out rather than actually securing new clients. So you waste time and money when you opt not to build a team. And you also are sacrificing most of the time your health because you're working like a crazy person. You got all the hats on in your business and you are sure, trust me, I know, to absolutely burn out at some point.
Absolutely. So you just completely read an entire, or you just spoke the entire chapter of one of the chapters in my book, The Dualpreneur Bible. I talk about how DIY lost me $50,000 in a year because I thought that, but me trying to figure everything out would save me money. It actually cost me money. It cost me a year of my life. I can't get that back. I learned just a little bit, enough to be dangerous, but I spent $50,000 trying to DIY.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I paid $5,000 for an executive coach or a business coach, they would have told me all of that, connected me with all the systems, done a lot of the things, and taught me how to make $50,000,
Exactly.
10 times more. And because I had this, well, I can't afford a coach, I could afford the coach 10 times, but I didn't understand the value of it. But
Mm-hmm.
the money I can get back. I got the money back, but the time that I wasted, I cannot get that money back. I cannot get that time back. And
Right.
the time is a new currency. We're all talking about we want to have experiences. Our wealth is, the moments that we have and all of that. I took away a year of moments that I can
Mm-hmm.
never get back. A year of the time whatever I spent trying to figure it out away from my son. So that is absolutely, oh my God, you just read the full chapter of that one chapter. I'm like, she must have read that book, the Dualpreneur Bible, girl. Absolutely. It's so important that people understand is that small investment. I do websites for my clients, right? And when they come to me, they're like, I spent so much time trying to figure it out. I can't figure it out no more. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But the time that
Exactly.
they've wasted on there for what I'm charging them, it's a fraction of the amount, and it comes out faster and more professional. They were like, "Oh my God, I should have hired you like a year ago."
Right.
So it's important to understand because we have a job, we have that, we're supposed to have that disposable income so that we can invest in our business to help our business grow and make more money. So thank you
And
for
that's the
bringing that
thing.
point up.
It's an investment. And if we look at it as an expense rather than an investment, it's always going to be harder to spend and wrap your mind around, oh, I need to,
Hmm.
you know, hire someone to do it,
Hmm.
because we look at it as it's an expense that I can't afford. But if you look at it as an investment, it's actually going to make you money. It's going to save you the time that's going to allow you to go ahead and make more money because
It's gonna save it's
they're
gonna
the
save you
expert.
time. Yeah, it's gonna save you that time, but it also positions you to help you make more money in the future. So
Yes.
you're absolutely right. The expense is the loss, but the investment gives you the return.
Hmm.
So absolutely, I love it. I love it. So what are some things that we should automate as dualpreneurs to help our business become better, more efficient, so we can make that money, so we can get the bag?
Automation, there are so many things. Like, you can automate 80% of your business, and you should, once you have the systems in place to do it. Um, but automation, first and foremost, I always recommend automating scheduling, because it's one of the most time consuming things ever. Trying to go back and forth with people to get on their calendar for y'all to figure out a date that works for everyone, when you can use a tool and automate that and let them pick a date and time that works best, and it be on the calendar, on everyone's calendar, with ease. So scheduling is one of the very first things, one of the easiest things that there is to automate. um,
My preference is Calendly. One, it's sexy when it's embedded in the website, and then two, it's Black owned. So that
yes.
is why I love Calendly. Had to throw
Calendly
that
was
out.
one of my very first was the very first scheduling tool that I used.
Mhm.
I have all-in-one stuff now because I just like being able to streamline things. But
Mhm.
Calendly is one of my favorite ones. It's the first one that I use, and it is a recommended. It is on my recommended tool list. But the other thing that I would say is another thing that I would say is important to automate is your invoicing, because you don't want to be chasing people for money. It's 2023. There is no way in the world that we should still be manually invoicing anyone for any reason ever. There are so many free tools out there. Wave is one of my favorites. It is free. It's an entire bookkeeping system. You can add paid features to it, but I had the free version of it for 8 years. 8 years I had the free version of it, and you can invoice through it automatically. It doesn't have a third party, like Stripe or anything attached to it. It still charges the minimum fees, but you can send invoices. You can automate the reminders. It allows you to scan in, receipts from your phone that'll automatically go into your bookkeeping. So invoicing is one of the very big things, because what you don't want to do is be at work and so busy working on a project at your job that you forget that there are bills that are supposed to be invoices that are supposed to be going out, and you're not retrieving money. Because many clients will come in and say, hey, I haven't gotten an invoice from you, but not all of them will. They'll be like, hey, she didn't say anything, so I'm not going to say anything either, right? And then you look up and you haven't built for this retainer, or you haven't built for this particular client, and now you have to chase down money. So
Absolutely. Mine, of course, I use QuickBooks. So, and then some people use HoneyBook. So
HoneyBook,
those are
yep,
definitely automate your invoicing. That's the money coming in and everything. You definitely want to automate that and make sure that system is in place.
yes.
So,
And then my top three is the onboarding process. I would say automate your onboarding. When I was a dualpreneur, the way that I was able to sign clients 24 hours a day, whether I was at work, whether I was on a car ride home, or whatever, I was still signing clients because I had my onboarding process automated. So from the time that they scheduled that appointment, they filled out a discovery form, they were able to book a call with me. And then they said, once we had the call, they said, yes, the contract, the invoice, the welcome email, everything went out automated. So even if I was working on my business, and I was at 2 o'clock in the morning, I wasn't sending contracts at 2 o'clock in the morning. That looks crazy.
right, right.
And it sets bad business boundaries, which is a whole other conversation. But
Whole
people,
other.
when you email people at 2 a.m., they feel like they can email you and get responses at 2 a.m.
hmm
So I wasn't sending things at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was, as soon as they were saying, yes, I'm ready to go, that proposal, that contract, that invoice were all going out automatically, and they were going out during normal business hours, even though I was somewhere, in the office preparing documents for, the managing partner.
Right, right. That's awesome. So what onboarding system did you use to automate that process?
Dubsado have hands down is my absolute favorite. It's an all-in-one. And it gives you the option to schedule, create automated workflows, send contracts, questionnaires, emails, everything all through one system. So
And it's Dubsado, spell it DUB.
Dubsado.
Okay, there you go. You got an automated system, onboarding system, Dubsado. I don't have a recommendation, so I'm gonna have to check out Dubsado. I think Honeybook has an onboarding process too that you need to build in, but I'm definitely going to be checking out Dubsado. So thank you so much, Sandy, for coming on and for sharing those tips, especially the automation tips for your business to help create systems in place. And you hit the major ones, especially the money system. You hit the scheduling system, and the onboarding system, which we all need, especially me. I'm just saying. So thank you so much. How can people reach out to you if they need your services, they want to do a consultation with you, or to learn more about you?
Absolutely. I am on all social media platforms at I am Sandi Evans. So I am Sandi Evans on all social media. Or you can go to the website, Carter Evans systemservices.com, and you can book a discovery call with me. You can take the system audit quiz, and it will let you know if your systems are ready for 2023.
Awesome. And that is so amazing. Again, Sandi, thank you for being so amazing. Thank you for being what is the system surgeon. We so appreciate. We need somebody out there to do that work, man. I'm trying to tell you. And at
Thank
least
you so much.
we found someone for you that can help you to automate your systems and help you to create systems so you can be successful in 2023 and above. Thank you everyone for watching the DUALprenedur podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.